All right, guys, this is the video lecture for chapter 6.3. This is the intervention in the price system. Um, just a heads up, remember that anything in green you guys need to write down, anything in red you guys do not need to write down. This lecture is majority green because a lot of this is a very important information, okay? Cornell notes, 2R notes, and a summary, and make sure you guys write down just the answers for the warm-up and questions and answers, or just follow instructions on the very last slide for the questions, okay? I will be checking this to make sure that everything is followed and going from there. Okay, so like I said, just write down the answers for the warm up. Go ahead and pause this and read them, and then just answer them to the best that you guys can. Imposing price ceilings. Okay, price ceilings are put into place to prevent prices from going too high. Okay, so when you guys hear price ceilings, I don't want you guys to think that the price is already high. Don't think of it like a house where the ceiling is up on the top. This is more like the price is, it's going to be set low. That way it has area for it to grow. It's set in a way to where it doesn't interfere with the free market system. Okay? It is the maximum price that can be charged for that product or service. It is essentially going to create shortages. Okay, it will be set below the equilibrium price, so that way a shortage will result. Okay, remember the equilibrium price is the area where the demand and the supply schedule or the supply curves intersect in the middle. Okay, at that point, that price is the perfect price for that good or service, meaning that at that price there's not going to be any surpluses, meaning any extra, or shortages, meaning any less. Okay, so a price ceiling, you guys will have shortages, okay? And much like the price floor that we're going to learn about next, it's often going to lead to things being sold on the black market, okay? Now, when you guys hear the black market, I don't want you guys just thinking about the black market where you guys can buy guns and other stuff that might not be the most appropriate. Um, for this portion of the black market, I want you guys to think about going to a sporting event. Okay, how many of you guys have gone to sporting events and seen ticket scalpers outside of the parking structures trying to sell their tickets for more money than what they paid for? Sports and concert tickets, those are the perfect examples for this portion of the black market. Okay, and setting price floors. Okay, price floors are the minimum that it can be charged for that good or service. Okay, so this is done to increase the price of a certain goods or services. Okay, it's establishing a minimum price. So I want you guys to think real quick. What is something that is establishing a minimum price for a good or service that you guys are going to be getting paid, or you guys are already getting, and you guys might not realize it? Okay, this wasn't the point that I was trying to make, but it's going to be talking about minimum wage. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Minimum wage is much like a price floor. Okay. Um, However, many of the basics that we need for everyday life, like corn, milk, wheat, have price floors as an incentive for farmers to produce it. And like I was saying a little bit earlier, minimum wage is the most obvious example of a price floor. That means that here in California, your work or the service that you're providing for that producer, whether you work at McDonald's or you work as a custodian somewhere, your work is worth a minimum wage to them. Okay. If you're working at McDonald's, it's most likely going to be that state's minimum wage, which in California, I believe it's 14.50 right now. Um, Minimum wage was established in the 30s, in 1930s during the Great Depression. That way, it would be an incentive to get more people to go out and work. Before there was minimum wage, we just kind of paid whatever we thought that job was worth. So by establishing the minimum wage, it helped people get into the workplace. However, one thing you guys need to think about is minimum wage really a good idea? Is it a good idea to raise it? Okay. Now, when it comes to this question, I want you guys to think of a couple of things. Think of the price of milk right now. Okay. Think of the price of corn or wheat, like in the third bullet point. If minimum wage went up, those farmers are now going to have to pay their employees more money, which means that it's going to be less money that they're going to be making. Okay? Now, corn, milk, and wheat are kind of bad examples because they're more regulated by the government on how much they can sell for. But not all products are regulated by the government. Um, and that leads to this point. So if they can't hire people because they're having to pay $14.50 to hire somebody, or an hour just to hire somebody, then that's going to cut into their profits. When it cuts into their profits, they might now produce less and hire less people. That way they can continue their profit to grow. Rationing resources and products. The market uses prices to allocate goods and services. Just a couple of chapters ago, I believe it was chapter 3, we were talking about the allocation of resources. Does anybody remember what the allocation of resources is? The allocation of resources is how you're grabbing those resources and how you're going to be using those resources. Okay? So, when you're trying to allocate resources, say for a farm, you know that in an area where it's going to be like the corn might need a little bit more water than something like wheat. So you're going to be allocating more water in that area to the corn than you would to the wheat. Rationing is done mainly by the government, and that's when the government is stepping in and allowing so much of a product to be bought or sold. Okay? Um, Wartime is a very common area for rationing resources. World War II, for example. In World War II, a lot of people the government started rationing items like coffee, meat, sugar, tires, and gasoline. Some countries have very little resources and must ration them in a lottery style. When it comes to the lottery style, that's meaning that it's going to be rationed in a first come, first served basis. Um, if you want to think just American, one of the last times in most recent memory, for me at least, um, was the fuel embargo. And the fuel embargo was in the 70s. I believe it was 1973. That was a area in which the US rationed gasoline in the form of a lottery style. It was first come, first serve, and you can only buy certain amounts of it. And like I was saying a little bit earlier, in the US, World War II was the perfect example. Food, tires, gas, etc. All of those were being rationed with coupons or stickers, and this was done by the Office of Price Administration. All right, guys, these are the questions that I want you guys to do. Um, for the first ones, I want you guys to just go ahead and write down the questions and the answers. That's it. For the first two, just questions and answers. For the second one, the analyze graphs figure 6.13, that's where I need you guys to draw the graph. In this graph, I need you guys to use the colors that they're using. So the dotted black line, please use a dotted black line. And same thing for the dotted blue line. And then go ahead and answer those questions. Write down the questions and answers also. I know it's a lot of writing, guys. I'm sorry, but I need you guys to get prepared for the final. And then finally, the application question number C, or letter C. And that can be found on page 184. Same thing, guys. Write down the question and the answers. And then also, before you guys show this to me, make sure you guys have your 2R notes and summary done. Okay?